This is the Average Joe Strongman Show.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey, it's Mike.
And I'm Lee. And this is the Average Joe Strongman Show. So we got a really good show for you tonight. Excited about this one.
Yep.
We got a strength athlete joining us today that, you know, from a resume standpoint for a strength athlete, you know, his resume is hard to match, if at all. This guy's been a pro strongman longer than my daughters have been alive. He's been a good friend of mine for many years now. We're just glad to have him on, Mr. Chad Coy. I actually ran into Chad back in 2014 at my daughter's first strongman show. And the reason I remember that is because Chad made it a point to come out and say something to my daughter about her talent and her skill and get her motivated to continue competing in strongman. So he's been a big influence in her career and mine as well. So
we both competed against him.
Yeah, we both competed against him. Mike competed against him in 2019 Nationals, right?
Yep.
And then I've competed against him as a pro for a couple times. So wealth of experience here. So we're going to bring him on. So stand by. Chad Coy is the program director at Parisi Speed School of Columbia, Missouri, as well as the corporate educator for the Parisi Speed School franchise. Chad has competed as a professional strongman since 1998. He's won Masters America's Strongest Man 2 times and placed second at Masters Worlds 2 times after 10 years as an open pro. A powerlifter from 1994 to 1998, he's also won 2 national powerlifting championships, 1 world championship, and holds 4 American records and 3 world records. Chad Coy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having
us on.
Thanks for having me. Hey, just want to clarify, you know, those the records were in drug-free powerlifting set in NASA, AAU, and WMPF. So never competed in USPF or APF against the big boys because I was still playing football at the time.
Nice.
All right.
That's still a hell of a resume for sure. Yeah. We're thrilled to have you on here. So we're going to get right into it. So, Chad, I mean, you've been competing in strongman for, more than 20 years. You know, I don't know many other people, if anybody, who's been in it for that long. I mean, how did you get started in strongman?
You know what? There were no shows back in 1994. I'd actually contacted Randy Strawson at Iron Mine. There was only, like, Sugarloaf was then, and there was nothing else really. So, like, we just held our own. And it was start out with a bench press, deadlift, farmer's walk. That was our first year in 94. And then we just added an event every year, and it just grew, and we picked up sponsors, and it just became kind of the granddaddy of strongman shows. It was called the Central USA. 96, we picked up a good sponsor, and they sponsored the event through 7 years. It was Human Development Technologies, the company I worked for at the time, sponsored our event, gave us $5,000 worth of supplements. So,
wow,
it was kind of cool back then, so it grew from 14 to 24 to most athletes we ever had at the show was a total of 74. And that was like 2014. So we ran the show from 94 to 2014. So,
damn, that's crazy.
Kind of funny to hear bench press mentioned with strongman because I have doing this for 10 years. I mean, never had bench in a comp.
Back then we were powerlifters, and it's like, strongman, we used 150-pound dumbbells for farmer's walks. So literally the next year we started making implements, it just kind of grew from there. And then the sport really, it was 1998. The American Federation of Strength Athletes had nationals in Vegas. So my training partner and I looked for that. We did that, and there was Strongest Man Alive. And that's right when North American Strongman Society was getting started, and it was down in Texas. It was their nationals. So,
awesome. What's kept you interested and involved for such a long time?
My golf game sucks. So, I'm not very good at tennis. So I had to do something I was halfway decent at. And I've always been into strength athletics. And you know what? When I was a kid, I just remember watching again, we all probably saw it. Bill Kazmaier was doing something.
Right.
And I can remember when I first started doing stuff, this is back as dating me, back when Coke was in eight bottles, and I'd carry 2 cases of Coke in one side and the other, and walking home. It was a farmer's walk. So I thought I was Bill Kazmaier.
Nice.
And I started training when I was 12 in 1980. So just
Okay.
I always wanted just to be strong.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, it's interesting you talk about your golf game. Lee's really good at golf. He loves to play with balls of all types.
Jesus,
But,
every chance I get.
Well, he set it up, so I had to take a
Yeah,
swing
I know,
at that.
for sure. So, hey, Chad, I know you're a coach now. I mean, is
Anyway,
that something that you've always done as a profession, or?
Not well, yeah, yes and no. In high school, I just, I didn't know anything about weightlifting, so I, told my mom I wanted to get stronger. So she took me to the Nautilus gym, and I started learning the Nautilus principles, and I bought a copy of the Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. So I learned that. It's kind of self-taught. I was the first person in my family to go to college. So when I went to college, my girlfriend at the time, when her parents thought I should be a lawyer because I like to argue.
There you go.
But I hated it. So I went into exercise science and nutrition because that was fascinating to me. It's like, I wanted to learn as much as I possibly could about training, about nutrition, how those affect performance. While I was there, I ended up walking on at Purdue University as a football player, stuck around and coached for a couple of years as an assistant strength coach, and got a lot of knowledge there from my boss, Steve Little. It was a great experience, but just wanted to get into power. I mean, wanted to be strong and wanted to be a good athlete. So that's kind of how I got started. And, I started coaching people. Writing programs in 1985. I've been 5 years in the training. Took my first paying client in 1989. I've been coaching people ever since.
Wow. That's a lot.
Well, it's interesting to hear you say that, you wanted to be strong. I think for a lot of people I know, and Lee, you probably as well, that's why they get into strongman in the first place. It's just,
Sure.
I mean, powerlifting is awesome, but, strongman, you've got to be athletic. You're moving with the weight, not just squat, bench, deadlift. And that's taking nothing away from a powerlifter, but there's just something about strongman that I think appeals to a lot of people for that reason, like you said.
It really appealed to me, but there were no shows, so we started our own. And then in 1998, there was like I said, that show in Vegas, and my training partner, I went out to it, and somehow, I ended up making the finals, becoming a pro strongman, and just, I kind of, after that, I was like, I'm okay with not doing powerlifting. I'd done a shit ton of meets from like 92 to 98, loved it. It was great. But, strongman was athletic, and I was an athlete first. So it just kind of took to it.
That's awesome.
Now, you've been a coach for a long, long time. Have you ever worked yourself with a coach specifically for strongman?
Not specifically for strongman. Well, I've never had a coach for strongman. I've collaborated with a lot of people with strongman. And actually right now, to be completely honest, I've talked to several coaches about coaching me. Most of them are like, I don't want to coach you. But Clinton Darden is a really good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. He's a great coach. We collaborate, and he's actually going to do some programming for me. And that's the first time in 40 plus years I've let someone else run the ship. Now, haven't gotten it yet, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But, we are collaborating, but now, I've gone everywhere I possibly could. It's pre-internet. How did you learn?
Right.
You got on a plane and you went to Finland, and you went to Iceland, and you went to Europe, and you learned from the best guys there. I've been really blessed with the opportunity to train with, half a dozen World's Strongest Man winners. So I've gotten to learn from Magnus Magnuson, from Sven Carlson, from Yoko Ahola, from Marius. Those are, I've competed against all those guys. So Dreamus, and it just becomes one that you pick things up. Being there in person, there's nothing like seeing it live and learning in real time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think you hit on a good point. I've talked to people about if you want to get better, if you want to up your game, you've got to train with people who are stronger and more experienced than you. Training on your own is great. You can get strong, but you need that external, feedback, input, experience from others.
Yeah. If you're the strongest guy in the room, you don't learn anything.
No one likes getting their ass kicked.
Yep.
So, fortunately for me early on, it's like, Doug R, 6'8", 450 pounds, is a great training partner. Sean Smith turned pro, Jason Davison turned pro, Jefferson Metters turned pro. These are all my training partners. Then Brian Neese, Brian Schoonfeld, I mean, training with Brian Neese and Brian Schoonfeld, I mean, there's 3 America's Strongest Man titles between them and 5 World's Strongest Man titles. I mean, you pick up a lot of things. And you know what? I mean, I was an athlete first, so I survived off athleticism where it took me a long time to build up the overhead strength or the deadlift power. I mean, I was a decent powerlifter, but it's all gotten better since I got into strongman.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So just to segue a little bit, Chad, and I know, and actually Mike and I were talking about this before the show, and you had actually built a relationship with Dr. Todd McDougall back years ago, and didn't you work with him and kind of develop what he's doing now for the strongman community?
Well, I was the guinea pig. He's the one that
Okay.
But it really came down to, is like I always felt, I mean, I going to the chiropractor definitely helped, but a lot of times I felt more fucked up from it right after I had it done. So I'm like, Todd, there's got to be a better way. Can you make a better way? And that's really how the whole McDougall technique became reality. Is like he tried shit on us or on me, and if it worked, we kept it. If it didn't work, we didn't. And there was a lot of stuff that didn't work. So all those people are reaping those benefits. Like, this body over here was
getting torn up to build it all up. Yeah.
Chad Coy, lab rat.
Yep.
I was pretty much this lab rat, but you know what? In the end of the day, it was the greatest experience. I mean, I think it's great. I think what he's brought from chiropractic to the sport of strongman, no one else is even close to doing.
Phenomenal. Yeah, absolutely phenomenal what he brings to the sport for sure.
Well, and you know what? And then bringing Becky into the fold, and like,
yeah.
I know a lot of us like those contacts are like, how do I get here? How do I get there? It's like, so I introduced them to people, and now they're in the sport. And like Becky was a World's Strongest Man, and Todd goes to the Arnold Classic. And I think it's just, I mean, that's what the sport's about. It's about helping people. And how do you help people? By getting good people in front of them, and they help them more.
Sure. No, and I love it. And they both volunteer their time to do this. And yeah, it's been phenomenal for the sport. I mean, both of them, Becky and Dr. Todd, have saved me on several occasions, but they know what, based on the events that you're doing, what they need to look at and what they need to focus on. It's just fantastic for sure.
It's awesome.
Okay, so for people that are thinking about getting into strongman, this is kind of one of the big things I wanted to get into, from your perspective, or from people that are new to the sport. At what point do you think people should consider hiring a coach? This has been a big topic that Mike and I have been discussing about, when's it time to get a coach?
I mean, in a perfect world, day one. Yeah. And why? Because they steer you away from all the bullshit.
Right.
Right.
For sure.
Here's the thing. You can Google everything, but you know what? And you watch all these coaches that are online. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't have a great Instagram presence. I don't show my ass off every day. I don't put content.
Damn.
But really what it comes down to is like, I went to nationals and I'm a national level competitor. I placed 17th out of 17 and I'm now coaching people. No, you fucking suck.
Yeah.
No one wants to say that because I can't be not politically correct. Fuck that. You know what? Most of these coaches, but find a coach, and what you need to look for is what's their education? What have they done? Who have they coached? Can they produce results over time? I coached one guy and he won nationals. Okay. You coach one guy, won nationals. Okay. Well, then what else have you coached?
Yeah.
I've been coaching since 1989. I've been doing strongman since 1994. I've been coaching it since then. If you look at the gym that I came out of in Kokomo, then Indiana, then Bloom, then Illinois, and now here, what do we have? Like 17 pros. Might be doing something right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
We
sure.
had 3 national championship 2 weeks ago. Out of 11 of my athletes that went, 3 won national championships. So it just becomes, I think you've got to find, and there's some great coaches out there. Mike Westerling is a phenomenal coach. Clint Darden, as much as, people as crazy as Terry Rady's become, he's a hell of a fucking coach. He's just a nut job. Anthony Beal's another good coach. And there's a lot of good coaches out there. I mean, Mills up in Lightning Fitness, and that guy's phenomenal. I mean, there's some great coaches out there, but you know what? I think so many people, I can do it myself. Fucking bullshit.
True.
No, you can't. Go hire, just spend the money, hire a coach. Save yourself the heartache of a year and a half of wasted training and learning shit wrong to have someone come back and train it right. I mean, for a profession, I'm a sports performance coach. Okay. And I train kids. And you know what? When do parents want to bring their kids? Like, hey, when should they start? I said, the early as possible. Yeah. So I can teach them how to do it right from the beginning, and they make progress and they have a longer career and the long-term development of an athlete.
Yeah.
When you look at the strength athlete, It's the same thing. Learn how to do it right from the beginning. Don't have any holes in your game. If I had one thing, it's like learn the Olympic movements, become explosive. Getting strong takes time, but getting explosive, you got to become explosive. Some people are blessed with fast nervous systems. The rest of us pretty much are normal, and it takes time to beat that shit into our body. So I think for novices coming out, find a coach that's competent and hire them. Then find a training crew that's competent and train with them. Okay, that's the beauty of this is a community. In a community of people that get after it, what's great. I mean, they will push you to do things you never thought you could.
Well, I think you bring up a good point as far as, the results speak for themselves. One of the things I talk to people about is the coach's ability to communicate, right? It's one thing to, have been, a winning athlete, but if you can't communicate to someone effectively and teach them, you can write a program, but if you're, hands-on with somebody and you can't tell them how to do something, then it's lost. You're only halfway there. I don't know how you feel about that.
Or if you don't know why are you good? Are you good because you were genetically blessed, or are you good because you worked your ass off and learned a shitload of stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to look at the athletes that are the best. I mean, look at Magnus Magnuson, very talented athlete, but he is a tactician.
Yeah.
And that's where when I looked at him and Ahola, Sven Carlson, all those European guys, they were all tacticians first. Now, I had the opportunity to come up with some of the great, Phil Pfister, Brian Neese, Carl Gillingham, Dave Oslin. Just the guys that came out when I was out, there was a lot of great guys there. And we got together and trained, and we swapped stories and, learned from each other, whether it was at a contest or we got together and trained together.
Yeah.
10 top pros together training, good shit happens.
I actually had a chance to meet Nick Osborne, who was Phil Pfister's coach when he coached him to the title in 2005, I think, or 6. Nick's just a really great guy, super smart.
Been friends with Nick for a long time.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the key to getting Pfister to work was film all of it. Because Phil, I love you, but you're the laziest motherfucker I've ever known. Okay. If I had that guy's body, I'd have won World's Strongest Man 10 times. Phil is Phil, loved Phil, but you know what? He only worked when he absolutely had to. And Nick was brilliant. He videoed all of his workouts, and Phil worked his ass off. And he won that championship, and he earned every goddamn bit of it. But you know what? If he had that work ethic, if he'd have done that every year, someone would video him, he'd have won it. He could have won as many times as he wanted to.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Hey, it's time for a quick break. We're going to do a contest calendar. So, Lee, if you can cue that up, we'll be right back, Chad.
Yep. 2 minutes. Right back. Then we're back. So this is the second biggest thing I wanted to hit you with, Chad, is this is one of the staple questions that I wanted to make sure I got you to answer today was, other than staying healthy, or at least trying to stay healthy and remaining injury-free, I mean, with your career and your history, I mean, what's been the biggest challenge to stay in the game for so long? I mean, for as long as you have. I mean, it's impressive enough on its own, but I mean, how do you accomplish that and stay injury-free for as long as you have?
I think you have to put a premium on what makes an athlete an athlete. So for me, I've been a sports performance coach for a long time, and a corporate educator for Parisi. So we do a ton of rehabilitation. We do a lot of active dynamic warm-up. So I've really just scoured the earth with everything I can possibly do to make my body as bulletproof as possible. That, and the thing is just sensible training. Don't overtrain. If you feel banged up, don't push it. I've got to train. It's big bench tonight and I've got to do 95% of it. Forget it. Call an audible, self-regulate. You've got to look at what's long-term. If today feels like shit, why are you going to push it? So, I mean, I've learned a lot from a lot of different people. I've done I've done all my training. The reason I'm talking with Clint because our philosophies are very similar. But having a coach, for me, he'll see my weak points and make me do shit that I won't make myself do. So I think what I've done over the years is just prehab and then take time off if I'm banged up. Now fortunately, knock on wood, I've never torn anything off the bone. I've got a shit ton of divots in my body where it's in the belly, fascial tears, stuff like that. But I've never torn a ligament or a tendon. Okay. So I think that's where I've been blessed. And then it's just, then be intelligent with your training and don't push it. If you don't feel right, just don't push it. I'm not going to walk up. It's like, here's the, if I'm at a contest, oh my God, I've got to win this event no matter what. If you're not willing to die for this sport, you're an idiot. You're a pussy, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you're a fucking moron. Okay.
That's right.
I got 3 kids. I got a business to run. What?
Right.
I need to work on Monday morning.
That's
None of
right.
this is worth it. If I tear something off, that's going to happen. Eventually, I think it's going to happen. And you know what? We'll deal with it when it happens. But, I'm not going to put my health at risk for this sport. And I think when it comes to just like, there's so many guys that burn the candle at both ends and they're a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
And they want it right now. I'm not an instant popcorn kind of guy.
Yeah.
Right.
If it takes a decade to get strong, take the decade. It's
Right.
okay.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with, at least from, my limited experience in the sport, is a lot of the injuries that I see is technique, right? It's people doing things, you can see it before it happens,
Yep.
Bad form, bad technique. There goes the bicep, there goes the hamstring. I've seen it over and over and over again. I mean, you see the same thing?
It's like in any portion of any sport, you look at those movement patterns. If you've got faulty movement patterns, you're going to get hurt.
100%.
So I think it's whether I'm teaching an athlete to be stronger or to sprint faster, technique it's all technique. We just had Ed Cohn in like 2 weeks ago, and I just remember training with Ed Cohn like 25 years ago, maybe. I just remember him saying, you're going to lift light weights like they're heavy and heavy weights like they're light. Your technique never changes.
Right.
We just had him in 2 weeks ago. He did a seminar here. It was a great seminar. And you know what? He really reinforced that with everything he said, that it's all about technique. And when I look at it, when have I gotten hurt? When have I strained something? Well, pretty much when my technique goes to crap, when I'm really pushing it. So,
And I think that's hard for a lot of people because people are impatient. They want it right now. And I tell people this every day, as a personal trainer, I say with the strongman team, look, don't ever sacrifice technique or form for an extra 10 to 20 pounds. Just don't do it. That's when bad things are going to happen.
Know what? It's going to, exactly. Bad things going to happen when you know what? If you're at World's Strongest Man and you're pulling the deadlift and it's for the win and you round your back, that's World's Strongest Man. Okay. If you're at, Columbia's Strongest Man, is it worth it?
Right.
Don't take chances. You don't have to. Now I'm the worst because I'm an athlete. So, you're training for a show, hell, I've duct taped my body together, in Christ's sake, to do an event, but it becomes you can't take the athlete out of the game, and that's going to happen. So I think it's just being long-term, being intelligent enough to shut it off when you need to.
Well, something else you said that I want to bring up, you talked about self-regulating. And that's something that I had to learn the hard way, unfortunately. And I think, Lee, you were one of these people, Vaccio, others said to me, look, why are you still training, hard 5 days a week at your age? Cut it back, cut it back to 3. And I think that people need to understand, particularly masters athletes, once you get north of 40, as hard as you train, you have to recover just as hard. Place as much emphasis on recovery as you do on the training.
I think that's for every athlete, but even doubly for the older guys. I think you can still train hard. You just I laugh because I'm like, how long do you train? I'm like, well, this is how long I train. That's a long time. I say, yeah, my warm up's a long time. My training is not that long. I train for 45 minutes, but I might warm up for an hour and 15.
Right.
Yeah. The younger you are, you can you can just jump in off the street and come in and do shit.
Sure.
You can't do that. So I've just put a premium on totally warming my body up. And if it doesn't feel good that day, I just make an alteration.
Yeah. Well, and again, as someone who's been in the game longer than Lee and I combined, actually, talk about the importance of a warm up, because I've got people who refuse to spend the time, and I keep hammering on this.
Yep.
I hope she's listening.
Here's the thing: if you don't warm up, you're a fucking moron. Period. Okay. There's
Chad Coy said it, not me, guys.
That's right.
And that's okay. I'll own that shit till the day I die.
Oh,
okay.
I'm with you.
Your warm up, your workout is directly correlated to the quality of your warm up. If you look off the street and you have a shitty warm up, you wonder why you have a shitty workout. Okay. It's like, guys, you got a beautiful vintage race car in your garage. It's winter. You're going to just pull that fucker out and just start cranking? No, you're going to warm it up. That's our bodies. That's everyone's bodies. Even the young athletes need to do the same thing. Yeah. Probably not as long as we do, And I think that's, from a coaching standpoint, I will say this. I will pick on the younger coaches out there. You younger coaches don't realize what it's like to train an older body. Okay. So the older coaches out here, we know how to train that older body because we're there. Okay. You also know how to train the younger body. So there's something that one of the younger coaches out there doesn't do well. They don't prepare their older athletes the same. Okay. You can't. We don't recover as fast. Okay. Now you have to limit, and then, like you said, your recovery has to be number one. So limit the amount of exposure to stress. Okay. Yeah. If one set does it, you don't need to do 5, bro. Okay. Yep. It just doesn't need it. So you need to do the minimal amount of stress needed to elicit the response you need. So I think as most people need to really abbreviate their training a lot more than they do. They do too much.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I did 3 hard sets today. 3. That was it. Did a lot of shit warming up that, but I had 3 hard sets. That was it. Yeah. I hit my numbers and I'm done. Walk out.
Yeah, good.
That's good advice. That was one of the actually, and it's a great analogy too, the race car analogy. And that was something that, my first coach in strongman, Todd Seipel, taught me that I relate to every single person that I work with and that I never really understood was your central nervous system. He's like, when you're hitting your working sets, if your CNS isn't firing, you're not going to have a solid set. And I could never get that to click in my head. And then he finally put me through a training process and a warm-up process. And then I did the same exact workout we did the Saturday before. And it was 100% different, right? Because my CNS was firing, everything was moving, right? It's like, how freaking simple is this? How, it's like, dang, the light bulb goes off. So every single time, can't agree more for sure.
I think a lot of people do an entire workout before their work set. Okay, you need to ramp up the motor pathway, ramp up, grease that groove per se. Don't do too much work. And if you're going to hit 300 for 5 and that's your top end set, you don't need 48 reps before that.
Right.
To get you ready, get the work done, and then be done and get the hell out of the gym.
Yeah.
Go recover. Recovery happens outside the gym, not in the gym.
Yeah. No, 100%.
100%.
Well, let's go back to the injury conversation for a second. I think for Lee and I and plenty of other masters, not even just masters, any strongman competitor, like at some point, chances are you're going to get hurt, right? Whether it's, like you said, a tear, breaking, something, whatever it is. Talk about training with or through or around an injury. Like what advice would you give somebody? Does it depend on the injury? I mean,
it's all injury dependent. For example, right now I've got tendonitis in my left elbow. Well, I'm not doing any extra tricep work. I'm doing a ton of therapy work on it. Well, I do a lot of banded tricep work, but I'm not doing anything heavy. I can get 1 or 2 or 3 good sets of presses, and that's all I've got before it starts been angry at me. Okay, so I can train through it. Then just work with slower rep ranges, or slower tempos and those lower rep ranges. So you're still getting time under tension. And then you've got to do everything you can to heal it. I mean, Arnica Montana, CBD oil, go have massage, get active release. If you need an adjustment, get adjusted. So you've got to do all that preventative care to stay healthy, and or to mend the injury. And if it's really banged up, take some fucking time off. It won't kill you.
Right.
You might actually come back stronger. It's crazy.
Well, funny you mentioned that. I think it was 2018. I was having a real bad elbow tendonitis, my right elbow, and I took 3 months off. I didn't press, didn't do anything for 3 months. And I came back and I hit a PR in that first training session. It was like my body just needed the time to heal. And that was kind of the light bulb moment for me. I'm like, okay, this makes sense.
Oh, it's an ego thing, right? It's an ego thing. Really.
Well, I don't really say much on those meme pages, but it's like no days off. It's like, I'm like, you guys are fucking idiots.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. My enemy's not taking any days off. Guys, there's no enemies here.
Okay.
Fuck. I mean, it's like it's going to war. No, it's not. You fucking lift weights, dude. You go compete. They're totally different things. No, you want to call yourself a warrior? I don't give two shits what you call yourself, but you know what? You need time off. You need time off. You need to train intelligently. And I think when you talk about time offs, I think the one thing that like Sadrunas does that's better, or the Eastern European guys do better than the rest of us, they take fucking months off at a time.
Yeah.
Now I say I haven't missed it. I mean, I've missed less than 20 training sessions since 1980. Okay. But I schedule time off.
Yeah. Sure.
I schedule off 7 to 10 days twice a year to let my body completely, or as best I can, completely refresh. And you know what? If it doesn't feel good, I just, today's supposed to be max effort. I guess I'm doing dynamic effort again. Nothing super heavy. Work on that technique. And you know what? The next time I'll get heavy. And I think that's what keeps your longevity. It's not always just grinding.
Well, common sense is not to be overrated, right? I mean, common sense reigns supreme. So
common sense isn't so common.
Here's the crazy shit. Get a fucking journal and write it down.
Yeah.
I've recorded every workout since 1980.
Yeah.
On paper. Sorry, I'm just not the technology guy.
No, old school. That's all.
I write it on paper, and you know what? And if it, leave notes for yourself. It's all right there. But no one wants to do that. They want this magic routine.
Yep. For sure.
Yeah, I think we could probably talk to you for another hour, Chad, but we're kind of running up on time. So, Lee, I think we got one more question we wanted to kind of end with.
Yeah. So, to finish it out, Chad, if you were going to tell a novice strongman athlete, I mean, what's the single most important thing for them to focus on, as they start their journey? I mean, what would that be? What would be the one thing you'd tell them to start as they're starting their journey in strongman?
Well, get a coach, learn the Olympic movements early, and stay an athlete. Big, strong, fat is still slow. If you want to win events, you've got to be fast. Now,
that's right.
Sorry, facts. I mean, I look at, as I've aged, I've definitely lost a step. I'm not the athlete I was, but again, I need to be the best 53-year-old Chad I can be. I don't have to be 33 or even 43.
Yeah,
really fucking cool, but I can't be. So I just need to be the best I can.
Father Time always wins, man.
That's right.
You know what? That motherfucker's gonna pay every inch, though.
Yep.
I have one goal. It's like I will outlast everyone else.
Yeah.
Until I win that goddamn world championship. Because coming in second twice sucks. So if I'm 75 and I win that first one, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm going for the long haul, baby.
Good for you, man. Well, listen, thank you very, very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. We could talk for a lot longer, but appreciate you making the time for us, and let them be back.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back again for sure. Pick it up where we left off.
Hey, you guys tell me, and I'll come back anytime. Selfless plug: Missouri Strongest Man, October 23rd, Columbia, Missouri, and hey, we give out cash.
Awesome.
We'll be on the board here soon. I just got to write a check or pay the bill and get that done.
Well, once we get the details, we'll put that in our calendar segment coming up for
sure.
Sounds awesome. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. All right, man.
Chad.
Thanks again, Chad.
See you guys.